Pete, don't people just believe in grotesque things these days? I mean, the youth's soft-headedness isn't exactly helping.
Dude, chillax. People can believe whatever they want. Doesn't matter. Just keep the peace, bro. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome all are welcome on Debatology. I am Peter Barrett and I've been in debating for more than 10 years as a competitor and a trainer, and on this channel we figure out ways to improve conversations and come to better decisions. As a debater, you might think that the primary skill you need to learn is argumentation. However, if you truly want to improve the quality of the conversations you're engaged in, I'm going to show you why listening should be your first priority. Now, you might be thinking, being a bad listener sure makes you less likable, but it doesn't make you a worse debater. Well, it does. Listening is an underrated skill and a very difficult one to acquire. So much so that I would count it as the biggest weakness of many impressive orators I know. In this episode, we're going to test your ability to listen and translate that into a skill that you can practice to improve your conversations at home, at work, or wherever you happen to be. So, let's get to it. Okay, I want you to imagine a situation where you are having an enjoyable conversation with a close friend. You are discussing something you both have in common and enjoy. For me, it might be my best friend Amin, a person I've known for 20 years. And let's say we would be talking about cars. Yes, I know, cliche. So, you're with your friend, right? And they're telling you about this new model of car or whatever. And it's just coming out. They say that it looks really cool. They show you a picture on their phone, and as you look at it, you can instantly tell something's wrong. In my case, imagine my friend is showing me the famous DeLorean from the movie series Back to the Future, but somehow he doesn't know that it doesn't exist. He truly believes it's a new cool car that's coming out very soon. Maybe, in your case, it's something else that you know not to be true. And that is reasonably verifiable. At this point, what should you do? I mean, again, they truly believe in what they're saying. They're not trying to troll you. They just invested a lot of personal commitment and energy into believing this thing. And now, you're faced with a choice. What do you respond? But before we get to the response, I'm going to make things even harder. Let's say that before you can react to the picture, your friend tells you that they've already bought it. They've already bought the car. They've invested time and energy into it, and it's going to define their lives from now on. They tell you that this car has a special ability to go back in time and enable them to see their loved ones, the ones who have passed away and they are craving to talk to. They believe all of this. And finally add that they have even tried it. And it works. They felt it. They've experienced it. It worked for them. Now, what do you say? You're looking at that picture and you know this to be wrong. You know this to be impossible. And yet, your great friend doesn't just believe it. They invested time, money, energy, and identity into it as a result of an actual physical experience. As real as anything you might have experienced yourself. Pretty hard, right? Are you still listening? Depending on your conception of friendship, you might have different reflexes as to what to do next. Before listening to and analyzing some typical answers, I'm curious to know what you would do in that situation. So please, comment your ideas below. Okay, let's see what you would do. Would you candidly reveal the truth to your friend? hoping they'll understand? Do you prefer to protect the relationship and avoid any comment that would shed light on your opinion? Or would you just start laughing at them, thinking that humiliation will help them change their mind faster? You might think that the last one is a bit of a joke. Yet, it's basically what all debunking videos are like on YouTube. Don't get me wrong,
I enjoy a good debunk once in a while.
but let's not pretend it helps people change their minds, especially when they've invested a lot of capital of all sorts in their belief. Additionally, it's very common for alternative belief systems to build up a rhetorical and social barrier to disapproval. If I were to humiliate my friend, he might just show me a video of a DeLorean apologist seemingly pre-bunking the simple-minded, ignorant shill that I presumably am. That little game, if it were to go back and forth, would just eat away at our relationship. After each exchange, we would just go back to each other's echo chamber to reinforce our belief and lower the risk of cognitive dissonance. Twitter is essentially built on that premise. And by the way, follow me on Twitter if you're tired of doom scrolling and you want a more constructive feed. So, how about the candid revelation? Surely that sounds reasonable. I mean, you want to protect your friend from a potentially dangerous belief, and there might be information out there that they do not have. Okay, so let's play this out. I'm sorry, friend, but this can't be true. You cannot speak to the dead, let alone go back in time. It's okay. I want to speak to my loved ones too. You should really get that car deposit back. Put yourself in your friend's shoes. Would they give up the high level of certainty of their belief just because you say so? Even if you show evidence and allow them to explore the content alone, which is an appropriate way to help someone change their mind, by the way, it might create friction as you're still the one holding the contrary position, or even more likely, they're actually prepared, thanks to their DeLorean truthers, to retort your factual demonstration with content that is dismissive of your sources. Indeed, it's very common in alternative belief circles to build a very convincing theory about why all mainstream and contradictory sources of information are somehow corrupt or untrustworthy, often using real truths as a basis for this dismissal. In a way, it is an ability we should celebrate. Evolution has given us an infinite capacity to dismiss apparently true statements by systematically questioning the premises that underpin them. But that is way too interesting not to have an entire video dedicated to it. So, what are we left with? Cowardness? Avoidance? Oh, sorry. I meant to say peaceful acceptance of the other side's perspective. No, I'm sorry. But listening doesn't entail leaving our friends out to dry. If our ability to listen were to be only measured by our inability to act for change, it wouldn't be worth a thing. Listening is a tool to enable us to allow positive change, to become more persuasive. As I said at the very beginning, it is a debater's skill, not some woo-woo, all is love, relativistic bullshit. My friends, don't be disappointed. There is a satisfying end to this story. However, it's important to note that avoidance, humiliation, or the simple showcasing of evidence aren't sufficient to increase our listening ability in a way that truly makes debates better. Let's have a look at what the science of listening says we should do. But before this, while I have you at the maximum level of attention, it is a good time to like and subscribe for more debate science. Whenever someone makes an assertion, especially one that contradicts our belief, it is very tempting to react in a direct way. Much like when someone asks us a question, we're primed to answer it. When someone says something that seems crazy, we're primed to dismiss them. It is a function of our collective brain, our ability to evaluate each other's arguments. Even though it is a good thing for our cognition, and for more on that, you can check out my video on why you're not logical. It might, however, not be optimal when it comes to helping someone change their mind, especially when they've invested so much into that belief. This is where listening can help. A very important contributor to the early research on listening was Carl Rogers. The mid-20th century psychologist coined the term active listening and developed the humanistic school of psychology, focusing on what he called the person-centered therapy. The approach was very empirical at first, but it ended up being, at least in part, clinically and scientifically validated. There are many interesting aspects of Rogers' work, but I'll focus on listening in this episode. To put active listening in the simplest terms, you need to do two things. 1. Listen for the total meaning. 2. Respond to feelings. Note here that responses are a component of listening. That is very important to understand, as listening isn't a neutral act. It is a dialogical one. It involves both you and your friend looking for subtle cues at first in your nonverbal reaction to understand your ability to understand them. And there it is, our starting point for an answer. Show the other person how well you understand their perspective. Not as to validate their point of view, but to show that you can see it from their point of view. This picture looks amazing. I would love to have a car that could do all of that. I can imagine putting a lot of money into it to entertain even a small chance of seeing my long-past loved ones again. In this formulation, everything is important. The description of the stages of decision, the reasons for the belief, but also the emotional validation. Which leads us to the second part of Rogers' advice: responding to the feelings. You must be so excited at the prospect of owning this car. Where did you hear about it? There we go. Now we have started a healthy conversation, a more constructive one. We have listened empathetically to lower our friend's guard, to allow them to think critically by themselves with minimal cost to their internal consistency. This is a first step towards epistemic dialogue. But then again, this topic will require multiple videos of its own. You might be thinking, why are we using the techniques used by psychologists to discuss with our friend? Well, it's pretty simple. Psychologists, especially clinicians, are the primary actors engaging in belief change through dialogue. When you think about it, going to see a psychologist often involves, as Carl Rogers put it, self-actualization, an updating of a belief structure about yourself to become less depressed, more assertive, generally more functional in society and more happy. I would argue that is precisely what we want for our friend. That is why active listening is an amazing tool in a debate such as this one. Right now, research on listening, more specifically an evolved version of Carl Rogers' work, is best found in the reference sourcebook of listening research, edited by Deborah Worthington and Graham Bodie. If you want to test your ability to listen empathetically and improve your dialectic skills, you can use their Active Empathetic Listening Scale, or AELS. The series of questions attached to this assessment mechanism is usable by anyone to bring their listening capabilities and deficiencies to a high level of consciousness. As Carl used to say,
Active listening is not an easy skill to acquire.
it demands practice. Perhaps more important, it may require changes in our own basic attitudes. This proposition questions the very foundations upon which democratic debate is built. But we'll talk about that next time on Debatology. I want to give a big shout out to the Listen First project, which assembles more than 500 organizations working to bridge the divide of political polarization at all levels of public policy. Their work is very inspiring and crucial to secure the future of our democracies. And I sure think they deserve way more visibility than they've been getting. In this regard, Jonathan Haidt is an individual worth reading and listening to, as his work at the crossroads of ethics, politics, and psychology is helping solve this interdisciplinary problem. I try very hard to source everything I tell you, and you can find them in the description below. The debate is, of course, open in the comments. Please contribute in good faith and good spirit. If you think that the topics covered in these videos are important, you should know that I work with organizations all over the world to facilitate more constructive conversations, improve critical thinking, and ethical conduct. There is more information on what I do on my personal website, phsbarry.com, so feel free to check it out. And I'll see you next time on Debatology.